This is Charles Blair, the mad scientist, and I really wanted to go over what I like to call the most important document you will ever need. Now, I know I said we were going to start this broadcast at 7:30. I had a couple of technical difficulties, just learning the process, so we got everything working forward now, and I think we're ready to get you guys all up to speed as to what's going on with the most important document you will ever need as a real estate investor. Now, I want you guys to understand something. You're not an investor per se. You, and a lot of us do this, I did this early on in my real estate investing career. I pinned myself in that box as a wholesaler, then a rehabber, then a buy and hold investor. I want you to take yourself out of that narrow prism and think of yourself as a transaction engineer. Because when we talk about the most important document you'll need as an investor, you'll see exactly what I mean. So let's dive right into this document right now. I'm pulling it up on the screen and we should be good to go. Now, this document is what I call my deal review seller questionnaire. And I've been in the business for over 28 years. They don't get any bigger documents than this one. And what I mean by that is you have to realize as a real estate investor transaction engineer, you make your money when you buy. You realize your money when you sell. So when you put that property under contract, that's when the numbers add up to the result of the sale. So you make it on the front end, you realize it on the back end. This document is pretty much the first document you're going to be dealing with when you work with a seller. Now let's go over the actual content. Look at the beginning of it. We start off with the seller's name. After we have the seller's name, we go into the actual date, the property address that we're trying to buy, the owner's address where the owner lives at currently if they don't live in the property. This owner particularly lives in Dayton, Ohio. Their home phone number and their cell phone number, which is the same as the above. Now, in this box, we have the market source. What's the market source? This property is a probate lead, came from a probate letter. The market source could be absentee owners. It could be owner occupied. It could be driving for dollars. It could be banded signs. So whatever your marketing strategy of choice, which was used to get this property, is actually go into this box market source. Now, lead servicing. That's the person who is going to do the deal, who's working on the property. Let's scroll down even further. What type of property is this? Is it a detached property, semi-detached, row house, or townhome? This deal is particularly a detached property. Now, I go further into the questions, and these are the money-making questions for the real estate investors. These are the questions that count. First question, what can you tell me about the property? This is an open-ended question because at this point, I want to find out from that homeowner exactly what's the issue with the property, why they want to sell. I like to call this one of the most important questions because when you get the homeowner talking about the issues with the property, now you're better able to analyze where this deal falls in. And when you're looking at the seller deal review script here, that's the key to it. You should be able to look at this one document, which we've mastered, and within 5 to 10 minutes, tell what type of deal it is, as opposed to only looking for a wholesale deal, a rehab deal, a buy and hold deal. That's what you have in this document. Let's go even further. Okay. The document, you've already asked the seller, what can they tell you about the property? Well, the property is inherited. The seller inherited this property. Now they would like to sell it. They live in Ohio. There's a wife and the kids, and they just don't want to keep the property anymore. Well, it's a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath. That's what they've told us. Now, they said they need the cash to really deal with their current expenses they have. They want to get a new car, they want to go to vacation, and so on. So they need the cash as quickly as they can. The seller also has determined, when we ask the question, how much does property like this sell for in the area? The seller stated that properties sell for around $200,000 in the area. Now, the reason why you want to ask the seller that question, because you want to know if the seller has a sense of value, how much properties are selling for. Not to mention, is it accurate value? Meaning, can you now verify it after the conversation, or if you know knowledge of the neighborhood, whether or not that is a true number or not, based on your comps and so on. So for the sake of this example, we'll say $200,000 is the actual value in the neighborhood. Now, the seller says the property needs between $50,000 and $70,000 worth of repairs. We put 50 down here. I'm going to change this. Let's make it 70,000. Make it even more interesting. So we say 50,000, 70,000. How long have they owned the property? Well, the seller says they owned the property for over 43 years. What goes up in my mind is this property free and clear? That's covered in the next question. The next question is the mortgage current? Well, the mortgage isn't current because there is no mortgage on the property. Now, when I find this information out, as a transaction engineer, I'm thinking of all kinds of creative strategies. And I'll tell you exactly what I mean. I'm not just thinking about wholesaling or rehabbing. I'm thinking about all kinds of stuff. Now, how many months behind are their mortgage? Of course, there's no mortgage on it, so it's non-applicable. But you want to find out how many months behind the seller is if there was a mortgage, if they are behind on their mortgage. And how much do you owe on the mortgage? That's a question you need to know. It goes towards what other type of deal this could be. If this property had a mortgage on it and the mortgage payment was low, well, then the person could be a subject to type of deal. This could be a lease option type of deal. This could be a tenant placement type of deal. So the questions have a purpose when it comes to the final exit strategy for the deal, or multiple exit strategies for the deal. How much is your mortgage payments? How much do you need to sell? The seller needs $100,000, $80,000 to $100,000. I think we got $80,000 now here. So the seller needs $80,000 to $100,000. I know this is the number I need to get within in regards to my exit strategy. How did you come up with that number? Well, I want to get a new car for my family. I want to go on vacation. I want to help with my college fund for my children. So that's how the seller came up with the answer, and this is extremely important. You want to know the reason behind this question and the answer, because it could help you tailor how you should structure the deal. Remember, we're not thinking pigeonholed into one exit. We're thinking as a transaction engineer, and what are the multiple exits for this? Now, if you are unable to sell the property, what will you do? Another important question. The reason why you want this question answered is because you need to know and let the seller have in their mindset, what do they plan on doing if they can't sell this property? You want to put that in the forefront of the seller's mind. Remember, you and the exit strategy you create is that of a transaction engineer. And this document, when analyzed properly, will allow you to look at any deal and determine, is this a subject to deal? Is this a owner finance deal? Is this a rent to own deal, tenant placement deal, wholesale deal, rehab deal, buy and hold deal? There are literally unlimited in ways in which you could exit out when you have the numbers that count. Let's go further down on this document. Is the property in bankruptcy? No. Is the property in foreclosure? No. Now, when we're talking about the normal deal analysis, we're talking about what you would call typically the Mayo Formula. It even has a placement down here for the typical exit strategy of wholesaling. It allows you to put in, let's say the ARV is 200,000, 65% of 200,000 is 130. Next, you'll minus the repairs. We say the repairs between 50 to 70,000. I like to go on the high end. So let's say the repairs is 70,000. You minus that from this 130, your number left over with is $60,000. The last number you have to factor in is your from 60, and you come up with a maximum allowable offer to start off with of 50,000. Now, if you're buying and holding this property, if you're buying and rehabbing this property, you would even factor in financing costs. But in this situation, we're talking about it as a wholesaler. So, as the wholesaler, you need to get in at 50,000 in order to make 10. But you've already determined that the seller wants to make at a low $80,000. Okay, well, what can I do? Because the formula says no unless you can get the seller at 50 for you to make 10. Well, you could literally give the seller exactly what they want when you're thinking outside the box like a transaction engineer. And here's how I would do that. The seller, we already know the seller needs money for a car, needs money for vacation, needs money to help with college fund. On an owner finance deal that has zero mortgage balance, I could give the seller a promissory note with a $40,000 down payment, $40,000 down, the other $40,000 paid over 4 years or 5 years at a $500 a month, and give that as a monthly profit or monthly cash flow to the seller. And at the end of the 5 years, I give the remaining balance as a balloon payment. I just created a zero interest loan from the seller with $40,000 down. I put my $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 in the property, rehab it, and then sell it. Make use of the full $200,000 for 5 years interest free. That's, my friend, is how you think like a transaction engineer. There's probably another 3 to 4 other strategies involving that same synopsis. But when you think like a transaction engineer, there is so much opportunities that is open to you as the real estate professional.